Hey everybody, I want to say something real quick while it's on my mind. CMC, the video that I posted this morning, I had made this yesterday before I watched her last night. Now, I hadn't been watching her, but I tuned in last night and heard the big announcement, about this house and how proud she is of herself and how proud her family is of her and how she was boasting and going on and on about her hard work. Now, I don't know about all of you all, and I want to address this to the woman who was commenting on my post about homes being handed down to people in this area, talking about how it works here. Well, I don't know how it works in cities and rural or like urban areas because I don't live there. But yes, in rural areas, families do tend to pass homes down to their children or grandchildren, or they like to keep them in the family. Especially these older homes, these farm type homes and homes that Mama and Papa worked so hard to save the money for and build on their own land, and they want to keep that in the family. But typically, they leave it to someone who has some responsibility and who will not end up selling it off. Now, I don't think any of us believe for 1 minute that any of her family members, her uncles, are going to put this home in her name. And if they do, they're just wanting rid of it. They just don't care what happens to it. I doubt that Concon's home is in her name. But anyway, you don't work. Her definition of she's worked so hard for this. I know people out here right now working 2 and 3 jobs. On that video, I talked about this young man who put himself through college and worked 2 and 3 jobs and had to humble himself and ask for help when he didn't want to have to do that. And he did because he felt like at that moment he had no other option. But once he got to where he got back up on his feet, he paid it forward and he helped others. You will not see CMC doing that. CMC didn't work for a damn thing that she's got. Her definition of she's worked so hard to get this home is saying basically I worked so hard to convince my family that I'm, doing what I'm telling everybody that I'm doing. They're so proud of me. There was a time when they wouldn't trust me with a sucker. Well, they have become the suckers if you look at it, because if they're falling for her line of she's clean and she's doing so well in life, she might be. And I'm going to say this, at the risk of pissing anybody off who watches this, she may very well be doing better than she was. And there are people out there who do pull themselves up out of drug use and stuff like that. And they do start to do better in life. And they are humble. They know where they were at. They know where they started. They know what they had to go through to get. And they don't ever want to go back to that. The difference with her is it was forced upon her by the court. Otherwise, she would not have made the decision to get clean and stay clean. And Suboxone, I'm not even getting into all that he said, she said stuff about whether it's good or it helps or whether it's just a passive, exchange one for the other. I'll leave that up to the professionals and to the people that actually use those things to help them in their lives or whatever. And I'll just keep my mouth shut about that. But she didn't work for nothing, not in the traditional sense of the word. She wasn't out here working 2 and 3 jobs, saving money to put a down payment on a home. She wasn't paying to have the roof patched or the plumbing upgraded. She wasn't paying the property taxes on this place. She wasn't doing all the stuff that homeowners have to do, and people who are struggling and saving and scrimping and putting money aside to be able to even to pay a rent. Because if you go out right now to rent a place, if she had to go out right now and rent an apartment, without any public help, any assistance from the government. For a one-bedroom apartment in her area, she's looking at anywhere at least $600 a month, and maybe even up to $800 a month for a small one-bedroom apartment. You got to pay a security deposit. You got to pay first month's rent. You got to pay to have your electricity and your utilities turned on. You got to pay a deposit on that. She don't have the money to do that, not unless she gets it from all of her followers and her subscribers and her viewers. So she didn't go out here and work. She wasn't working 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9 like a lot of people have to do to make ends meet. And once they do get a home, it's all they can do to upkeep it. Her definition of she worked so hard was to stay off of dope publicly long enough to convince her family that she's clean and that she's trustworthy. 10 months, she says she's been. Is that the amount of time that it took for her uncles to trust her enough? Or were they just bombarded to the point that they just said, you know what? And I tell you what my own personal opinion of it is, I think that they knew that if the time ever came that they were not there anymore, that she would move in on Concon and take over Concon's home to where it would become a hoard house and another filthy, disgusting dog bathroom. And they thought, okay, we don't want that to happen to the house Connie lives in. So they have another house that belonged to their grandparents or her grandparents. I got a honk my horn from my mom. So they just thought, okay, let's just give her this place to get her out of Connie's home. She was probably telling them she's going to move in with Connie because there's something going on with her and Ed. But why was she over there last night planting flowers and putting out a flower bed to fix his place up if she's moving out of his place? Could it be, and this goes on a lot, and this is also for the woman who commented on my post. I agree with you that homes do get handed down. Hopefully it's because people want them to stay in the family. They don't want to see Mama and Papa and Mom and Dad's hard work be sold off to anybody. They want the home to stay in the family. There's people in my family right now that has done that. And but here's another thing that goes on. People use addresses in order to obtain food stamps, in order to obtain SSI, in order to obtain any kind of benefits that they might be getting. Or maybe it's just that she wants to separate herself from Ed's name. So maybe Ed's just laid the law down and said, you know what? Or maybe his family laid the law down. I don't know. I don't know what goes on behind their doors. But what I'm getting at, and my whole point of this video, is to say it eats me up for her to sit there and say she's worked so hard. She's never put in a hard day's sweat and labor in her life. She's never had to pick up a 250-pound woman and wipe her ass and then roll her over and wipe the other side with very little help. She's never had to stand on her feet at a gas station for 8-9 hours straight. She's never had to drive a truck. She's never had to take care of even her own children. She's never known a day of hard work. She's never known what it's like to be a single mother, sitting at home trying to decide between buying her children something that they need, because the needs of a child, as an adult, you look at their needs and you say shelter, food, clothing, medication if they're sick. Those are their needs. But children have needs such as being included. And if there's school trips or something like that going on, they want to go. And sometimes it's the difference of $10 to be able to give them to go on some school outing, or buy a birthday gift for a friend to go to their party, or something like that. That is some little thing that a child doesn't realize the parent may struggle to even be able to do that. She doesn't know what it's like to be a single parent, to sit at home at night worrying about how she's going to pay her bills, feed her kids, and still be able to do things for them. Even a married couple or a couple combined, a joint couple with kids, she doesn't even know that struggle because she's never had to do it. And her family rewarding her for her hard work. What the hell? What the hell are they rewarding her for? Being able to not get high as a kite? That's something to get rewarded for? Okay, let me take that back. Let me say this. For people who have struggled with drug addiction, I'm not here to say you don't deserve anything just because you stayed clean. And there are a lot of people out there who have had to let their kids be taken from them or handed their kids off to somebody else because of their drug addiction. But most of them, when they do start to get clean and they do decide this is not the life I want anymore, the first thing that they think to themselves is, I want my kids back. I want my kids in my life. Some of them may be able to do that, some of them may not. But they have to work at it and prove themselves. And sometimes it might take years for them to be able to convince the foster care system, the judge, the courts, that they're clean and that they're working and that they have their own home and all that. This woman, she just walks up, her uncle or somebody says, okay, you can go over here and live in Mama's house. And it doesn't matter if it's a rundown shack in the woods or if it's a 3-story mansion. She didn't earn it. She didn't work for it. If her only reward is that she has not put drugs into her body for 10 months, what's her next goal? Because I don't hear her talking about, I'm going to go out and get a job, and I'm going to work. I'm going to stand up for myself, and I'm going to earn the money. You can still have your Facebook page. There's a lot of people that's got Facebook pages that have jobs, 9 to 5 or 5 to 9 or 3 to 2 or whatever. And they get on Facebook in their spare time or YouTube or whatever else. Remember when she used to say she worked for Facebook and that was her job? It was because she'd never had a job in her life. She said she worked at McDonald's. I'd love to hear somebody come forward who worked with her at the McDonald's in Allen, Kentucky. I think it was Allen in Floyd County. Come forward if you worked with her. Come forward if you went to that restaurant and ate, and tell us, how long was she there? Because I guarantee you she didn't work there long enough to draw 2 paychecks. But you know what? It's not my place to judge her on that. I'm here to say, her family, y'all are not doing her any favors. If your only stipulation was that she stay clean and you'd give her a home, then you did not do her any favors. Because how long is she going to maintain that home? How long is she going to keep before she starts hoarding it up? How long is it going to be before all of her dogs start pissing and shitting everywhere and she won't even wipe it up and clean it up with a mop? How long is it going to be before she has some dude living there with her, mooching off of you all and your generosity? Because whatever's going on with her and Ed, I can tell y'all this much. If I move out of my husband's home, if I live with somebody and I'm in a relationship with that person for 10 or 12 years like her and Ed have been, and I just up and move out and go get my own place, what's the reason for my doing that? Is it because I no longer want to be in a relationship with that person, or they don't want me in a relationship with them? Am I going to go out and start dating and finding some new person? Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I thought I had a bottle of water in here, but I don't. So maybe he did find him somebody new, and maybe he wants to move her in. God bless that woman, whoever she is. If you have to come in and clean up somebody else's dog shit in order to live in the home, I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but I just thought I'd give my 2 cents on it. People can say, well, it's none of your business. But I just wanted to point that out. Hard work. She has worked so hard. She has busted her butt. Y'all just don't know. That's why she don't get on Facebook that much anymore, guys. She's only on live at least twice a day. You know? She used to be live 4 times a day for 2-3 hours at a time. Now she's only live once a day, once and a half, twice a day for an hour and 45 minutes or an hour. You know? So what's the reason she's not been coming on Facebook? You know, because she's been so busy working. Working at what? Does she have a job? Does she get up in the morning and bath and fix her hair and she go to an office? Or does she go to a fast food place or a grocery store? Does she work at a loading dock? Does she drive a truck? Is she a mechanic? Is she working in the coal mines? You know, is she working at the post office? What is it? What's she doing? What's her hard work? Because I know people right now that are working. I know couples, married couples who are working. Some of them are working 2 jobs trying to maintain their homes, and a lot of them still end up losing their homes that they worked for and put their sweat in, and their hard work, and their worry, and their stress. Wasn't handed to them by great-grandma or mama or uncle. And let me say this, I don't see a damn thing wrong with handing a house down to somebody. My grandparents' home was handed down to one of my cousins, and I have neighbors and family members who have homes that belong to their grandparents that were handed down to them. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with somebody putting a mobile home on their dad's property or their grandparents' property. It's called helping your family members to not struggle. If you have a family member, a grandson, a nephew, a son or daughter who is working hard and who wants a life, and maybe they've got kids or maybe they're just getting married, and you've got a home sitting there, yeah, let them live there. Let them keep the place up and let them work for it. Let them put in the blood, sweat, and tears that Mama and Papa put in to maintain that home. Do we see CMC doing that? Do we see her taking pride in her home? She hasn't taken pride in the home she's lived in for the last 10 years. Why the sudden outside working in the flower beds, putting out, digging roots up and plants up out of the woods and transporting them to her yard? Why the sudden change up? If she's moving out of Ed's home, why is she so worried about fixing the outside of it up? Especially if he's moving another woman in. If my husband said to me, you need to find you a place to live because I'm going to fix this place up for my new girlfriend, well, she wouldn't have much to come to. I can tell her that much. She'd be sitting in a cool breeze because I'd bust every fucking window in the place out before she showed up. And she wouldn't have to worry about air conditioning. Biatch. I don't know, y'all. It galls at me because I know people. I know people personally myself, my own family members, who have struggled with drug addiction. Some of them worked hard to get clean, and they went to 12-step meetings. They went to NA meetings. Some of them went into rehab. And when they came out, some of them stayed clean and moved on with their life and worked for what they wanted, went to college, got jobs, found their own home or rented a place and paid their own bills, didn't rely on anybody else. Because, see, that's part of staying clean and maintaining your sobriety, is being responsible for yourself. It's called responsibility. The video that I posted this morning was about which I made yesterday, like I said before all this stuff about the house, was about being humble. The difference between humiliation and humility. Humility is to say, I'm humbled by people's generosity. I'm humbled because people are willing to help me when I'm struggling. I'm humbled because I had to humble myself and say to somebody, I need your help. I've tried every way my way and I can't find a way. Can you help me? And they do, and you're so grateful, and you're humbled. You just feel so grateful to somebody that actually saw something in you that made them think you were worthy of their help, and that they knew that you weren't going to take advantage of that. Humiliation. There's nothing humiliating about needing help. Everybody's going to need help at some point in their life. Humiliation is when you are just the type of person that takes advantage of everybody around you. You don't take pride in your appearance or your home's appearance. You don't worry about how you look to other people. You don't worry about the language that you use, which I know I cuss, so I'm humiliated by that, but I don't know. I guess that's something I need to work on myself, but humiliation is when other people look at you and say, don't go around him or don't go around her, because they are a piece of crap who's just going to lie to you and take advantage of you. Now, that's what CMC has been for the last 38 years, or let's say 28 years, right? Probably from the time she was old enough, because y'all have heard me talk about narcissism and how it manifests itself in an age around the age of somewhere in the neighborhood of between 10 and 14 years old. By the time a person is in their puberty years, they've already become who they're going to be as a narcissist, and their maturity level, their mentality, their mental growth spurt has stopped at the age when the narcissism manifested itself in them. I've talked about my ex who's no longer living, so I hate to even talk about it, but it's just an example to say that I would put his narcissism age at around 12 years of age. I don't know what was going on in his life at that time, but his maturity level, as far as like, I mean, he worked a blue collar hard labor job, and he made good money, and he owned his own home, and he owned a nice truck, and he was a man as far as on the surface, and as far as speaking to him and talking to him, he came across as a mature man. But there were certain things about him, his response to anger, his response to something that didn't go his way, his response to personal relationships would manifest itself in a very immature way. He would lash out immaturely the way that a 12 or 13-year-old kid might do. You know? With CMC, what I see, and I'm no professional, but I just see this myself, I think that hers started around the time her brother was born. I think that she had begged and groveled to Con for attention all of her life and didn't get it because Con's outliving her best life. And Con meets baby daddy of the brother and settles in and gets pregnant with brother and is living this home life with this man and baby. And CMC's over here like, why didn't I get any of that? Why didn't I get that kind of attention? That's the reason why she hangs on to her mother now. And what she tries to come across to the public as her and her mom having this loving, close relationship is basically her holding her mother hostage by guilt tripping her into, you didn't give me the love and the attention I wanted as a child, so I'm going to behave like a child now to get your attention. And this is the reason why she would come live and she would say, guys, y'all don't understand. I have to help my mom too. I'm not just taking care of one household. I've got to take care of two households. I got to make sure that little B has what she needs. And I got to make sure. And that right there was a way of putting her brother down. When she would ask for people to send stuff for little B or send money so she could buy little B school clothes and things, it was a way of putting her brother down and lording herself over him as better than him and more important than him. That was working towards her mom and little B. Look at me. I'm providing for you both, and where's he at? He's not here. And does anybody here believe that her uncles just sat around one day and said, you know what? CMC is doing so good. Look how good she's doing. She's not been out here begging and bumming. She's been staying clean. She's been doing so good in life. Let's give her a house. What do you think? Let's all get together at the family reunion and let's present her the keys to the house. Because she's worked so hard for it. Does anybody believe that they really did that? I believe what happened was when Concon's driveway got flooded by the flood, and she had a little bit of floor flooding coming in through her doors, I believe one of her brothers, one of CMC's uncles, said to her, well, you know, we got this other house over here. If you need someplace to stay while you're cleaning up, if you need someplace to live, you know, if you can't get your driveway fixed back, maybe you can come over there and stay. And I think CMC heard that, and her little radar started going off in her head. And I think she said, Mom, what do you think? Why don't you talk them into letting me live there? Why don't you talk them into letting me have that house? Why don't you tell them that Ed's running me off? Why don't you tell them that I can't live with Ed anymore? Maybe, this just occurred to me, the whole reason why she's not been going to church is because her and Ed are living in sin, and she doesn't want to present herself as a Christian going to church in the eyes of her family and in the eyes of the public, while she's maintaining this image of this good person that's changed her wicked ways. So in order for her to be able to go to church and be accepted by the Christian community, if her uncles are both in and a part of, she wants to show that she and Ed are no longer living together as a non-married couple. Is that a possibility? Possibly. But I can say this, whatever the case may be, it all boils down to her ulterior motive. She's got some motive, because a narcissist always does. And her true mask will drop eventually. That family's going to put her into that house. And it may be, like I said, it may be a shack in the woods, or it may be the nicest home in the neighborhood, which I don't know about that, but, you know. Either way, she's going to get herself in there. And there may come a day when her mask falls off and they start finding out stuff that's going on behind their back. And they may say, what are we going to do now? You know, we fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker, guys. Remember that old saying she used to say, you can't play a player. You can't out-hustle a hustler. I hope uncles are watching this and listening to my words. And people might say, you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about. I probably don't, but I'm still going to talk. I'm sitting here waiting on my mom to come out of her doctor's appointment. But you know, I'll just wrap this video up just by saying this. My whole point of making this video was to just say, it eats me up, and I know I'm not the only one, to hear her talk about her hard work when this woman has not lifted her finger to put in a hard day's work. She can get on live and she can dig around in the dirt and she can say, look at the hard work I'm doing, everybody. I'm fixing Ned's place up because I'm going to be getting my own place, but I'm going to fix his up before I go. It's all for show, I can tell you that much. She may move into this home that her family's letting her live in. I doubt very much that they will give her a deed to this place. She said last night something that a lot of people may have caught and a lot of people may have missed. She said, I'll have my own home that I'll never have to worry about being kicked out of. Well, or her uncle saying to her, you can live there as long as you want to and you don't never have to worry about us kicking you out. Even if you go back to getting high and partying, and even if you muck the place up with dog shit, and even if the outside of it starts falling in, and you know, you start having all these people coming around, strangers that you meet on the internet coming over to visit or to stay with you or whatever, are they going to say, yeah, you can stay there, you don't have to move out, you can go back to living that same lifestyle, and we won't kick you out, don't worry about that? Or was it because Ed said to her, you need to find a place of your own to live because, did someone say at one time that that home where Ed lives belonged to his brother? And is the whole reason why she's moving out because his brother has finally said, time for her to go? Or maybe Ed was the one that said, time for you to go. Maybe Ed really does want to get on with his life, you know? Maybe he can't have his family come over to visit because of her, because none of them wouldn't come around while she was there. But you know what? I ain't giving no credit to Ed because he stood by and let her treat his mother like a dog while she lived under his mother's roof. She talked about his mother like a dog and treated her like a dog, and let her live in a filthy ass house. Come in and destroyed this woman's home. See, that's what I'm talking about. Mamaw and Papa's house. I don't know nothing about Ed's mom, and I don't know nothing about his family's past history, what kind of people they were, what they did for a living, or if they worked, or if they were the same type of people, you know, as Concon's family. Now, I'll say this about CMC's family, except for Connie, and I don't know Connie worked. I don't know nothing about Connie's past history of working or whatever. But her uncles seem to have had, and at one time her uncles may have been party animals themselves. They may have been drinkers. They may have, you know. But she talks about her uncle like he was a carpenter and like he built homes. And apparently they had some kind of a history of working because they were able to build their own house, you know, and have their own places to live. But that was just like CMC's talking about this house that they're giving her. That was her apparently it was her grandparents' home, I'm guessing. I'm just taking a wild guess here. Because you can't believe half of what she says. You can't believe 95% of what she says. And the only little percentage of what she says that is true is when she lets it slip. Okay, last night she said her family gave her the go-ahead to let everybody know that she was getting this place. But don't say nothing else about it. Don't say another word about it. But the more she talked, the more she told. Well, I'm not going to tell y'all nothing. I'm going to tell y'all where this house is at. She said, my mom lives in my grandparents' second home. So that right there was a dead giveaway that they had another house. And if they moved out of the first house into the house that Connie lives in as an upgrade, you can only imagine that this house has to be pretty old. But you know, there's nothing wrong with older homes. There's nothing wrong with older houses if somebody has been taking care of them and maintaining them. The lady I worked for last summer, her home was probably over 100 years old. But it was maintained, and it was kept up, and it was kept clean, and it was repaired when it had damage. It wasn't just left to sit and nobody enter the premises, you know. But she was just giving little tidbits away because her narcissism, she had to boast and brag. Boast and brag. And she just kept boasting on herself about her hard work. I ain't seen it, CMC. I ain't seen you out there on the food line. I ain't seen you out there. I've seen you online hustling. I've seen you online taking advantage of elderly people. I've seen you online making up lies and stories to get people to send you stuff, money, and other items. And that's your hard work right there. Maybe she's using the thing saying she's not been on live begging as part of her hard work. I'm sure it really is hard to go from begging every day and lying and making up stories every day to having to keep your mouth shut. Because we're seeing that she's having trouble keeping her mouth shut. But y'all, I'm having trouble keeping my mouth shut too. And I'm going to end this video. I just want to say thanks to everybody for taking the time to listen to what I have to say, even though I know I just ramble. But for all of you who are out there working hard, and you may have yourself working 2 jobs, or you may be in a couple working 2 or 3 jobs, or you may be a stay-at-home parent and your spouse may be out working and you're struggling, and every day is a decision whether what to buy for groceries and what to pay and what to let go and what to worry about. Just know that you're coming by it in an honest, true way. No matter how hard the struggle is, your reward, whatever it is that you're able to purchase, some small little purchase, like being able to send your kids on a school trip, letting your kids take part in sports, and making sure they have the shoes and things that they need. Being able to put food on the table at the end of the day. That is your reward. And you're working for it, and you're coming by it honestly. You're not taking advantage of other people, and you're not taking something from somebody else. And that's what you should be proud of. And people like her who are putting on an act, it'll all come back on her one of these days. She still ain't out working. That is one of the most important things when it comes to staying clean. And if you've ever been a part of an NA program, or if you've ever been part of a rehab or a recovery program, they encourage you to get a job. Get a job and keep a job. And that's what the courts should have implemented with her. Get a physical job and maintain it. Have your boss sign a paper every week that you were there, that you put in your 30, 40 hours or whatever. As part of her probation, that's what they should have done, instead of allowing her to use the internet. Because regardless of what the judge might say, she's still hustling people. That's all I have to say. I appreciate everybody for listening. Have a great day.